Hi, greetings. It's me, Dr. Paul Gerhardt, and today I want to talk to you about skills approach to leadership. Now, we're going over a lot of different types of leadership theories, and it really is important to understand these different theories for different various reasons. For instance, if you wish to grow your career in any organization of your choosing, you really must have the right skills, knowledge, and abilities in order to do that. And really having an understanding of each of these different leadership theories helps you to be able to know how to navigate your career and what professional development that you need, and to help you make you aware of where you have opportunities for growth. And that really is important, especially when you're looking at it from a skills perspective. Now, we've essentially been studying leadership for a long time, but this skills approach goes all the way back to the 1950s, and then there's a lot of literature that emerged in the 2000s. So I just want to touch upon that little bit of history and help you understand, where leadership skills approach came from, why it's important, and how does it work. So skills approach really is about recognizing one's knowledge and competencies, in order to be able to accomplish goals. It really is more of a leadership-centered perspective, and it has an emphasis on skills and abilities that can be learned and developed. You probably heard me say, and probably tired of me saying, you don't always know what you don't know. But good leaders really do know that they can't know everything, but in areas where that are really needed, especially for whatever industry or organization they're working in, they need to be able to recognize where that gap is in their skills and bring people in who have those skills or build those skills. So in 1955, Katz, it was a researcher who really took a look at three particular skills: technical skills, human skills, and then conceptual skills. And we're going to talk about each of those. They're all very important, but to different degrees depending on which level of the organization that you are a leader in. There are probably more supervisors in any organization than any other level of management. And technical skills and human skills really are the most important, and that really kind of makes sense. I mean, if you are a supervisor supervising people who are doing the work that provides the product or services to your organization, then they really have to be able to understand the technology that their employees are using. And they really must have the human skills to be able to understand the needs of their employees, know who their employees are, and give them what they need at the right time. And that's the human skill that's needed. Probably the one skill out of each of these three that really isn't as needed as all the rest for supervisory management probably is the conceptual area. They pretty much are doing things that the upper levels of management are telling them to do. They understand the goals and the tasks that are needed to be completed to get them there, but it really is people higher up in the organization that are telling supervisors what needs to be done. Middle management. All three of these skills are highly needed if you want to be a middle manager. There are like lots of different titles for middle managers. Sometimes they're directors, deans, vice presidents. Sometimes they're just called manager or operations manager. So there are all sorts of titles that come with the middle management job description. And all three, technical, human, and conceptual skills, are needed for middle management. They have to understand what is the technology it being used in the organization is. And they need to be able to create plans of action that helps the people who are creating the products or services really make sure that there's solid plans of action. At the very top, probably the least out of those three skills needed are the technical skills. The top managers really need to be able to understand the human skills that are needed in order to continue to move the organization forward, because organizations don't go out of business if people aren't understood and their needs are not met. But then also, along with that, the conceptual ideas, being able to understand how everything fits together and being able to look at future needs of the organization and future needs of the stakeholders, and being able to navigate the organization to where it needs to be. So essentially, all three skills truly are needed in order to move the organization forward. So let's talk about technical skills a little bit. Having knowledge about and being proficient in a specific type of work or activity really is what technical skills are. They're specialized competencies. It really is related to analytical ability and then using the proper tools and techniques. Very often it's about having the knowledge to be able to do things that require your hands, to get dirty in a sense, really being understanding the operations of things. And it really is most important at the lower levels like I've talked about. Human skill is important in all three levels of the organization. You've probably heard me talk about emotional intelligence. I mean, it really is, the cognitive abilities really are so important as it relates to relationship building. You really have to understand your own perspective on things and be able to be flexible enough to be able to adjust your communication abilities and what you talk about with other people. And it really is about helping other members of the group be able to work together well and being able to ultimately create an atmosphere where there's trust and empowerment among all members. Remember, trust is the glue of all relationships, and you got to give trust in order to get trust. So this human skill is needed in all three levels of the organization, because organizations really are all about satisfying, completely satisfying the stakeholders. Customers have to have absolutely no reason to want to look elsewhere for their product or services. Ultimately, you want to create raving fans so that people come back and because they're opinion leaders and they're telling others about their excellent product or service. Let's talk about conceptual skills for a minute. It's the ability to do the mental work in shaping the meaning of the organization, policies and issues. Really recognizing what the goals are in the organization and helping make sure that you can analyze different situations, before they happen, and so being strategic really is important. And that's why that conceptual skill really is probably the most important skill for a top manager. It's what separates a top manager from a lower level manager. So they really have to understand the business. They have to understand the needs of the clientele, and they need to be able to project in the future so that they can make the best decisions to keep the organization competitive. If the organization doesn't stay competitive, it's because they didn't have the proper strategic plans in place and the competition outsmarted them. Today, we're so many organizations that have been around for a long time declaring bankruptcy because leaders failed to make sure that they were able to project and predict what was going to happen and then put the right operational plans in place. And so today, more than ever, in a global competitive environment, it is so important to have the conceptual skills down. So really being able to recognize that in a skills-based model, You've got to recognize what your individual attributes are, be aware of what the leadership outcomes really are, what needs to be done and accomplished. Great leaders these days, generally speaking, don't just jump into a position until they've had some experience that helps give them the right career experiences to help them make the right decisions all the time. Because, as you probably heard me say, it's not what happens to us that matters, it's what we choose to do that matters most. And so the more experiences we have, the better ability that we have to be able to navigate particular situations. And that's what leaders primarily do, is they're making decisions. And then very often we as leaders are needing to make career decisions and be able to recognize that there always be internal and external influences that affect the way that we see the world and affect the decisions that need to be made. So, bottom line is that at every level of the organization, leaders are always influencing success of people, performance of people, and making sure that leaders at every single level are making the right decisions means that they really have to have the right skills and knowledge in order to be able to continue to help people that they influence take the next steps. So let's take this approach from an attributes level. From a skills perspective, leaders really must have a good general cognitive ability. They need to be able to problem solve. They need to be able to recognize what's happening and what may happen as they make different decisions. Two, leaders need to really be able to have the motivation and then be able to motivate other people to take action. So you may understand what happens or what could happen, but if you do not take the right actions at the right time before it's too late, that could have a negative effect on you. And this one often doesn't get enough word-of-mouth praise, but personality really matters. People should be able to feel like they're understood by people and that they really like their leaders. And so having a personality that has the ability to easily influence other people to want to do good work is really important. So social judgment skills are needed, problem solving skills are needed, and then that important knowledge of the organization and recognizing what tools are available and what steps need to take place. And all of these together really affect the leadership outcomes of problem solving and performance. So leaders really need to know what they don't know, and that really is about surrounding themselves with the right people and materials, really being able to create a culture where people want to be creative, so being a good leader really essentially means that you've got to have the right skills, as we've continued to talk about. You can get the right experience. I mean, this is a video that really is designed to help you really think about how can you take your next steps in your career. Well, recognizing that maybe you don't understand all levels of the organization, so you need to get training and be able to talk to people who can help you understand what each of the different divisions and departments of an organization does. That's a really important quality of a leader. And then know what to do with that kind of information is really important. Very often people who are trying to grow their careers will ask for challenging assignments. Those challenging assignments help stretch people and take their knowledge and skills to new levels. Very often people who are wanting to learn more and gain more career experiences ask for mentors, and they talk to people who have been doing things for a long time to help them understand things better so they can become better problem solvers. And then getting the appropriate training. All leaders at all levels of the organization should be constantly doing professional development that gives them new skills and refreshes those skills to help them stay current. And then very often, getting a hands-on approach. I think it's a really good idea for all levels of leaders to be able to from time to time go and have conversations with people and observe people throughout the whole organization to really be able to understand some of the nuances at each of the levels of the organizations. These are the things that helps hone people's skills and decision-making processes so that they make the best decisions possible. Great leaders need to be aware of environmental factors, internally, the technology, skill level of each employees. These are the things that influence outcomes in the organization. Those are internally. But also externally, great leaders need to be aware of the economic situation and political and social issues and natural disasters. These are things that are outside of the organization that can have a dramatic approach. So being able to have contingency plans for when the economy goes bad. When we were in a recession, some organizations stayed strong and some organizations went bankrupt or nearly bankrupt. So really having a clue on what to do in each of those cases, being able to navigate the organization and have the right people in the right places to help make those good decisions. Politically, they need to be making good organizations. I don't want to work for do business with an organization that is doing unethical things, from a political perspective, or not doing or harming people in any means. So social issues really matters. So really being able to understand the skills approach to leadership is absolutely important. If you want to be a leader, take a personal inventory and figure out where your strengths are and your leadership competencies. What are they? And then talk to people in every level of the organization and find out if you really like what you're seeing, and it sounds like there's some ability to have upward movement and what you have to do to get there. So anyway, that's skills approach to leadership in a nutshell. I thank you very much for your valuable time in watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions, and have a great day, because only you get to choose how you feel about it. I'm Dr. Paul Gerhardt.